morning, friends. The subject of my talk this morning is the second part of the subject, what is Hinduism? Most Hindus think that they know their own religion. But unfortunately, that is not the fact. Most of them, they don't know their religion. That's why I was forced to write a book on Hinduism named Essentials of Hinduism. Many thousand copies of that book has been sold in this country, and many more in India. And also that book has been translated into Korean language. So this is the part 2. This is the part 2 of the talk on Hinduism. Today I shall talk about the specialities of Hinduism as a religion. The first speciality is that it is the oldest living religion of the world, and yet it is vibrant. Some ancient religions were there that died down. Why is it still alive? Because it does not have a known founder. So many have contributed to the truths which are there in this religion. Those who contributed, they are called rishis, that means seers. They could see certain truths which others could not see. And the other speciality of Hinduism is that the word blasphemy is not there in Hinduism. Therefore, all possible questions can be asked about this religion. And the answers also have been given to practically all of them. This is a religion which is still alive, and it is so many thousand years old. And Hinduism, which was known to its ancestors as the religion of the Aryans or Arya Dharma. Dharma means a religion. And also they would call it the religion of humankind, Manava Dharma. Yes. And also they would call it the perennial religion, Sanatana Dharma. So this religion is still alive and vibrant after so many thousand years of its existence. This religion spread far and wide. It spread out to what you call Iran today. It is believed that the word Iran must have come from the English word Aryan. And in Sanskrit, its name is Parsia. That was the old name. And it spread out to even Iraq. The ancient name of Iraq in our religion is Oirako. It went up to Oirako, Iraq. Then it went to Tibet. And the ancient name of Tibet is China in Sanskrit. an ancient name of China. It went to China also. So its ancient name of China is Mahachina, the Greater China. And that country, which is very adjacent to the Indian plateau, is Burma. The original Sanskrit name of that country was Brahmadesha. Brahma means God or divinity, the country of God. Now, due to political reasons, those who run that country, they have changed the name of the country. Indonesia, that was also where Hinduism spread. The name indicates that also. So all these countries were there where Hinduism had spread out. And it's this speciality, there are many specialities of this religion. I'll just mention 8 of them today. The first one is the idea of reincarnation of souls. It is this religion which believes that some people who have died, many of them will be reborn out of them. It is called reincarnation. At least I know one person who could remember his past incarnation. He was a Swami of our order, an elderly Swami, who was in South America for quite a few years. His name is Swami Bhaskarananda. He could remember his past incarnation when he was visiting Germany. And the idea of reincarnation is considered a valid idea by Hinduism. Even the ancient Jews believed in reincarnation. Once some companions of Jesus Christ brought a blind man to him. That blind man was born blind. And then they asked Jesus Christ, why is this person blind? Is it due to his own faults or due to the fault of his parents? Due to his own faults, he was born blind, so those faults must pertain to his previous incarnation. Anyway, Jesus healed that person and said that his blindness was there to prove the power of God, because Jesus thought he was the instrument of God. So whenever he performed so-called miracles or healings, they were all done by God. That's what he thought. So reincarnation. Reincarnation was there among the followers of Jesus Christ, who were called Christians, although they are actually Jews. And it was one Roman emperor who became a follower of Jesus Christ, and he anathemized reincarnation. Illegal. That's what he declared. Anyway, the second speciality of Hinduism is that it knows divine incarnations to be a fact. God incarnates in human form sometimes. And when that happens, it is called incarnation of God. In one of the most popular scriptures of Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned. Let me quote a little Sanskrit. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata vyutthanam adharmasya tatatmanam srijamyaham. It means whenever there is decline of spirituality anywhere, and there is a rise of its opposite, that means materialism, then I incarnate. Why? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam. To help those who want to lead spiritual lives, and also to prove that those who don't believe in that, their belief is destroyed. So reincarnation. How many reincarnations are there? Or one of the scriptures of Hinduism say that avatarahi asankhya. That means there are innumerable divine incarnations, because the world has existed for thousands and thousands of years. And during that period, God incarnated many times. Why does God incarnate? The answer has been given. God's incarnation is there, as I have already said, when there is rise of irreligion, then to remove that, God incarnates. And they are the teachers. You can see behind me the picture of Sri Ramakrishna, who is considered a divine incarnation. Divine incarnations have certain signs and symptoms, and he had all of them. And one of the Hindu scriptures, one Purana, it is called, that describes the signs and symptoms of a full divine incarnation. And Sri Ramakrishna had all of them. And Jesus Christ is also a divine incarnation, judged by those signs and symptoms. It is the same divinity which manifests in different periods of time in human form to help humanity through the revival of true spirituality. So divine incarnations. In the scriptures of Hinduism, there are many stories. Through stories that teach higher spiritual teachings. There is a story of Indra and Virochana. Both were kings. Indra had spiritual qualities, but Virochana did not have that. So they both went to the source of divinity, so to say, and they wanted to know the highest truth, and they were taught that divinity is present everywhere, in every person. So Indra understood it in one way, and Virochana, who was not evolved spiritually, he understood that the body was God. Tattvamasi, your divinity. So he thought that the body was God, and he taught his subjects the same truth. So, but Indra understood the teachings properly. And those who would display more spirituality, they would be called Suras. Suras means something which shines. And those who would not express their spirituality, they would be called Asuras, because they would not shine like the Suras. That's why the idea of Sura and Asura is present in Hinduism. But the Rig Veda, which contains the oldest truths discovered by those great sages, there the words Sura and Asura are sometimes considered synonymous. Asura, the word Asura sometimes means divinity also. Anyway. And so much about divine incarnations. And then the third specialty is harmony of religion. In the Rig Veda, which I mentioned earlier, this is the most ancient holy book of Hinduism. There is a saying, Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti. People in those days used to think that God had many forms. God was the God of the ocean or waters. God was the God of thunder, and so on and so forth. So that's why in the Rig Veda it is being said, those gods are all one. Are all one in the same divinity. But different sages call the same God by different names. Ekam Sat, that divinity is one. Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. But that's different sages call the same truth by different names. That is the foundation of harmony of religions. All religions are like so many paths which lead to the same divinity. Sri Ramakrishna clearly explained that to us. He practiced Christianity, he practiced Islam, he practiced whatever other religions were there during his time, and arrived at the same divinity. That's why he had the right to say, religions are so many paths which lead to the same destination, which is divinity. And Hinduism is the only religion which accommodates philosophy. Philosophy consists of questions and answers to such questions. There are 6 systems of religious philosophy. And the oldest, one of the oldest is Sankhya philosophy. According to that philosophy, at the beginning there was divinity and there was the mother nature, so to say, matter. Divinity was consciousness itself, and mother nature was unconscious. But it is mother conscious was matter, very, very fine matter. And this mother nature borrowed consciousness from what is called Purusha. Here the male and female, this kind of relationship is being used because the male is Purusha consciousness and Prakriti or Mother Nature is female. Why? Because it is Mother Nature which by borrowing consciousness from Purusha started evolving and has evolved as this world. Just as Mother is responsible for the birth of children, so also it is this Mother Nature which is responsible for the creation of this world. And there are many Hindus who think that Purusha is also called Brahman, that is greater than the greatest, which is eternity, infinity, and where there is no action beyond time, place and causation. But Mother Nature is, we know what it is. It is within time frame and time, space and causation. So that's why there are two groups of philosophers. Some philosophers say that Mother Nature is, there is no divinity in Mother Nature, and only the Purusha or Brahman is what is divinity. But there are some, like Sri Ramakrishna, he says, Purusha and Prakriti are identical. Because he knows that all is Brahman or divinity. And Mother Nature is sometimes called Divine Mother. So that's a Brahman and Divine Mother are the same. That idea is present in Hinduism also. And there are different paths to experience divinity. That is another speciality, and I have already mentioned that to you. Then there is that doctrine, the sixth speciality, so to say, doctrine of action and its effect. So the person performs action by his sense organs and his mind. What is action? It is anything which is done by the indriyas. Indriyas means sense organs. And the internal organ, which is the mind. Action in Sanskrit is called karma. What is karma? That question has been asked. The answer has been given. Indriyanam vyaparaha karma. Anything in which these indriyas are sense organs and the internal organ, which is the mind, are involved, that is action. And when a person performs action by using the sense organs and motor organs and all that, such actions produce some effect. And these effects, like boomerang, come back to the doer of such actions. So if a person performs some good action, then the good results will come back to that doer. If a person does some bad action, that means selfish action, what is selfish is bad, what is unselfish is good. That also has been explained. But anyway, I don't want to enter into that today. And so the results of the actions of a person come back to the doer. Doctrine of karma. And there are different paths to experience divinity. We are all divinity, but we have to experience it. And there are different paths. And they are recognized by Hinduism. The path of devotion is there, the path of rationality is there, the path of selfless action is there, and the path of concentration and purification of the mind, these are all there. Path of devotion is called bhakti yoga. Path of rationality is called jnana yoga. Path of selfless action is called karma yoga. And path of mental concentration and mental purification, that is called raja yoga. These are the four main paths, by following any one of which one can eventually experience divinity. Hinduism also teaches what is called divine grace. So, people suffer from the results of their good or bad action, and that is due to the doctrine of karma, or doctrine of cause and effect. But there is something called divine grace. If one submits to divine grace, then one will not go through such suffering. So divine grace has been compared to a breeze, strong breeze which is always blowing everywhere. And self-effort is the effort of a boatman. He has to row the boat to go anywhere. But if he somehow puts up a sail in his boat, then he doesn't have to row anymore. The divine grace of the breeze of divine grace will be moving that boat. So one has to give up one's selfishness and perform all actions as service to divinity, unselfishly. That is divine grace. Then the eighth speciality of Hinduism is that everything that is there in the world that has been spiritualized. What about music? Even the ancient primitive people, they would also make drums out of hollowed out trunks of old trees and would go on beating that trunk and creating that sound. So drum is perhaps the most ancient musical instrument. But in Hinduism, everything is associated with spiritual life. So music in Hinduism is considered a means of experiencing divinity also. Many of the musical instruments were first developed in India. For example, the musical instrument called violin. Most probably the word violin has come from the Sanskrit word bahulina. That is something which lies on the arm. And this instrument is also called Ravana yantra. Ravana was an ancient king, Hindu king, and the yantra means instrument. It was Ravana's instrument to produce music. And in Western music, there are usually 8 notes. In Indian terms, there's sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. But according to Hinduism, there are 16 notes, and also there are many sub-notes. And the number of sub-notes is 36. And all the music has to be used to experience divinity. And in Hinduism, many high spiritual teachings are given through stories, or moral truths are taught through stories. That's how the book Panchatantra came, or Hitopadesha, Panchatantra stories, that the animals speak and all this, but each story has a moral at the end to learn about, good moral. Hitopadesha, these are also similar stories. That means Hitopadesha means good advice. And copying the Panchatantra stories in Europe many years later, they created that book called Aesop's Fables. So music has to be used to experience divinity. That is the teaching. Everything has to be spiritualized. Even the relationship between husband and wife, that has been spiritualized in Hinduism. And the husband is called Sahadharmi, and the wife is called Sahadharmani. That is co-partner in spiritual life, they are co-partners. Sahadharmi means one who is a co-partner in spiritual life. Sahadharmani means a female who is co-partner in spiritual life. So the husband and the wife, they are not just mates, they are co-partners in spiritual life. Each one should learn to help the other to grow spiritually. How? By making mutual self-sacrifice. Mutual self-sacrifice. Who is a good wife? A good wife is she who willingly and lovingly makes self-sacrifice for her husband. And who is a good husband? A good husband is he who willingly and lovingly, not grudgingly, willingly and lovingly makes self-sacrifice for his wife. And self-sacrifice, unselfishness. Through the practice of unselfishness, they will eventually manifest their divinity. And divinity is unselfishness itself. I talked about that during my past talks which I was compelled to give. Unselfishness is divinity. So how music can help to experience divinity. There is a story. It is believed that the sage Narada is a great musician. And he had some occult powers also. He could fly through the air. And he is one of the greatest musicians. That's what we hear about. And Narada one day was flying in order to go to the Himalayas. And they believed in those days that in the Himalayas, Himalayan mountain on the top, there are some divinities such as Lord Shiva and Vishnu, etc. So Narada was going there. And while going there, then on the side of the mountain, he saw some people crippled. Either their arms are crippled, their legs are crippled. They are all lying there and groaning and moaning. Some men, some women, male and female. So Narada is kind-hearted. He came down to them and asked, "Who are you?" They said, "We are the melodies of music. We are the ragas and raginis." Ragini means female, raga means male. Anyway, so we are the ragas and raginis. "Who has done this to you?" Narada asked. He said, "Oh, there is a person, his name is Narada. He has done this to us. He does not know music and he harmed us." And Narada's pride, that whatever pride he had about his musical performance, he became humbled. Then he said, "I am that Narada. Please tell me how you can get back your real form." Then he said, "There is only one soul who knows music, and that is a divine soul, that is Lord Shiva." Then Narada went to Lord Shiva and prayed to him. And Lord Shiva said, "I will perform music, but that music, I need someone who will be able to appreciate that music." Narada's vanity had already been destroyed, so he didn't offer himself to be a person. Then he said, "Who will be that person who can appreciate your music?" And Lord Shiva said, "Lord Vishnu is the only one who can appreciate music." Then Lord Shiva then sang all those melodies perfectly, and they were revived. So that is the story. We, as a temple or church, we organize musical evenings and we invite many musicians to come and perform. And I tell them that you have come here to perform music not for people to listen, but as a service to God. That's how they will benefit spiritually. So, even music, Hindu music is a means of God realization. So, Hinduism has all these specialities. And the highest teaching of Hinduism is what? Tattvamasi, you are divinity. Aham Brahmasmi, I am also divinity. And Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, everything is divinity. This is the highest teaching. If these teachings are saved, Hinduism has been saved. If these teachings are lost, then we can say that Hinduism is lost. The highest teaching, everything is divinity.